As the sound of the shofar calls us to worship, the Gospel Network and Psalm 117 Ministries presents this week's Bible readings. Welcome to the Gospel Network and Psalm 117 Ministries. This week's Bible readings with this week's presenters, Bishop Michael Kendrick and Deacon Morley Lever. Welcome to this week's reading of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. This week's verses are Genesis 28:10 to 32:3. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. He came upon a certain place and stopped there for the night, for the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of that place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place. He had a dream. A stairway was set on the ground, and its top reached to the sky, and the angels of God were going up and down on it. And the Lord was standing beside him, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. The ground on which you are lying I will assign to you and to your offspring. Your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and your descendants. Remember, I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Jacob woke up from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is present in this place, and I did not know it. Shaken, he said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the abode of God, and that is the gateway to heaven. Early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on the top of it. He named the place Bethel, but previously the name of the city had been Luz. Jacob had made a vow, saying, If God remains with me, if he protects me on this journey that I am making, and he gives me bread to eat and clothes to wear, and if I return safe to my father's house, the Lord shall be my God. And this stone which I have set up as a pillar shall be God's abode. And of all that you give me, I will set aside a tithe for you. Chapter 29. Jacob resumed his journey and came to the land of the Easterners. There before his eyes was a well in the open. 3 flocks of sheep were laying there beside it, for the flocks were watered from that well. The stone on the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, the stone would be rolled from the mouth of the well, and the sheep watered. Then the stone would be put back in its place on the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, My friends, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. He said to them, Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor? And they said, Yes, we do. He continued, Is he well? They answered, Yes, he is. And here is his daughter Rachel, coming with the flock. He said, It is still broad daylight, too early to round up the animals. Water the flock and take them to the pasture. But they said, We cannot until all the flocks are rounded up. Then the stone is rolled from the mouth of the well, and we water the sheep. While he was speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's flock, for she was a shepherdess. And when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of his uncle Laban, and the flock of his uncle Laban, Jacob went up and rolled the stone off the mouth of the well and watered the flock of his uncle Laban. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and broke into tears. Jacob told Rachel that he was his father's kinsman, that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. On hearing the news of his sister's son Jacob, Laban ran to greet him. He embraced him and kissed him and took him into his house. He then told Laban all that had happened, and Laban said to him, "You are truly my bone and flesh." When he had stayed with him a month's time, Laban said to Jacob, "Just because you are a kinsman, should you serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older one was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes. Rachel was shapely and beautiful. Jacob loved Rachel, so he answered, "I will serve you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban said, "Better that I give her to you, that I should give her to an outsider. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my time is fulfilled, that I may cohabit with her." And Laban gathered all the people of the place and made a feast. When evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to him, and he cohabitated with her. Laban had given his maidservant Zilpah as her maid. When morning came, there was Leah. So he said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? I was in your service for Rachel. Why did you deceive me?" Laban said, "It is not the practice in our place to marry off the younger before the older. Wait until the bridal week of this one is over, and we will give you that one too, provided you serve me another 7 years." Jacob did so. He waited out the bridal week of the one, and then he gave him his daughter Rachel as wife. Laban had given his maidservant Bella to his daughter Rachel as her maid, and Jacob cohabitated with her also. Indeed, he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served him another 7 years. The Lord saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Leah conceived and bore a son, and named him Reuben, for she declared, "It means, the Lord has seen my affliction." It also means, "Now my husband will love me." She conceived again and bore a son, and declared, "This is because the Lord heard that I was unloved, and has given me this one also." So she named him Simeon. Again she conceived and bore a son, and declared, "This time my husband will become attached to me, for I bore him 3 sons." Therefore he was named Levi. She conceived again and bore a son, and declared, "This time I will praise the Lord." Therefore she named him Judah. Then she stopped bearing. Chapter 30. When Rachel saw that she had borne Jacob no children, she became envious of her sister, and Rachel said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I shall die." Jacob was incensed at Rachel and said, "Can I take the place of God? Who has denied you fruit of the womb?" She said, "Here is my maid Bella. Consort with her, that she may bear on my knees, that through her I too may have children." So she gave him her maid Bella as concubine, and Jacob cohabitated with her. Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Rachel said, God has vindicated me indeed. He has heeded my plea and given me a son. Therefore she named him Dan. Rachel's maid Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, a fateful contest I waged with my sister. Yes, and I have prevailed. So she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped bearing, she took her maid Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as concubine. And when Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a son, Leah said, what luck! So she named him Gad. When Leah's maid Zilpah bore Jacob a second son, Leah declared, what a fortune, meaning, women will deem me fortunate. So she named him Asher. Once at the time of the wheat harvest, Reuben came upon some mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But she said to her, was it not enough that you took away my husband, that you would take my son's mandrakes? Rachel replied, I promise, he shall lay with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes. When Jacob came home from the field in the evening, Leah went out to him and said, you are to sleep with me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes. And he laid with her that night. God heeded Leah, and she conceived and bore him a fifth son. And Leah said, God has given me my reward for having given my maid to my husband. So she named him Issachar. When Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a sixth son, Leah said, God has given me a choice gift. This time my husband will exalt me, for I have borne him 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. Last she bore him a daughter and named her Dinah. Now God remembered Rachel. God heeded her and opened her womb. She conceived and bore a son. And she said, God has taken away my disgrace. So she named him Joseph, which is to say, may the Lord add another son to me. After Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, give me leave to go back to my own homeland. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, that I may go. For well you know what services I have rendered you. But Laban said to him, if you will indulge me, I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me on your account. And he continued, name the wages due from me, and I will pay you. But he said, you know well how I have served you, and how your livestock are fared with me. For the little you had before I came has grown too much, since the Lord has blessed you wherever I turned. And now, when shall I make provision for my own household? He said, what shall I pay you? And Jacob said, pay me nothing. If you will do this thing for me, I will again pasture and keep your flocks. Let me pass through your whole flock today, removing from there every speckled and spotted animal, every dark-colored sheep, and every spotted and speckled goat. Such shall be my wages. In the future, when you go over my wages, let my honesty toward you testify for me. If there are among my goats any that are not speckled or spotted, or any sheep that are not dark-colored, they got there by theft. And Laban said, very well, let it be as you said. But that same day he removed the speckled and spotted he-goats, and all the spotted and speckled she-goats, every one that had white on it, and all the dark-colored sheep, and left them in the charge of his sons. And they took pasture 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob was pasturing the rest of Laban's flock. Jacob then took fresh shoots of poplar and of almond and plane and peeled white strips in them, laying bare the white of the shoots. The rods that he had peeled he set up in front of the goats, in the troughs, the water receptacles, that the goats came to drink from. Their mating occurred while they came to drink. And since the goats mated by the rods, the goats brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted young. But Jacob dealt separately with the sheep. He made these animals face the speckled and wholly dark-colored animals in Laban's flock, and so he produced special flocks for himself, which he did not put with Laban's flocks. Moreover, when the sturdier animals were mating, Jacob would place the rods in the troughs in full view of the animals, so that they mated by the rods. But the feebler animals, he would not place them there. Thus the feebler ones went to Laban, and the sturdier to Jacob. So the man grew exceedingly prosperous, and came to own large flocks, maidservants and menservants, camels and asses. Now he heard the things that Laban's sons were saying. Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and from that which was our father's he has built up all his wealth. Jacob also saw that Laban's manner toward him was not as it had been in the past. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your fathers, where you were born, and I will be with you." Jacob had Rachel and Leah called to the field where his flock was, and said to them, "I see that your father's manner toward me is not as it has been in the past, but the God of my father has been with me. As you know, I have served your father with all my might, but your father has cheated me, changed my wages time and again. God, however, would not let him do me harm. If he said thus, 'The speckled shall be your wages,' then all the flocks would drop speckled young. And if he said thus, 'The streaked shall be your wages,' then all the flocks would drop streaked young. God has taken away your father's livestock and given it to me. Once at the mating time of the flocks, I had a dream in which I saw that the he-goats mating with the flocks were streaked, speckled, and mottled. And in the dream an angel of God said to me, 'Jacob.' 'Here,' I answered. And he said, 'Note well that all the he-goats which are mating with the flocks are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have noted all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now arise and leave this land and return to your native land.' And Rachel and Leah answered him, saying, 'Have we still a share in the inheritance of our father's house? Surely he regards us as outsiders, now that he has sold us and has used up our purchase price. Truly all the wealth that God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. Now then, do just as God has told you.' Therefore Jacob put his children and his wives on camels, and he drove off all his livestock, and all the wealth that he had amassed, the livestock in his possession that he had acquired at Paduram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Meanwhile, Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household idols. Jacob kept Laban at Aramim in the dark, not telling him that he was fleeing, and fled with all that he had. Soon he was across Euphrates and heading towards the hill country of Gilead. On the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he took his kinsman with him and pursued him a distance of 7 days, catching up with him in the hill country of Gilead. But God appeared to Laban the Arameme in a dream by night and said to him, "Beware of attempting anything with Jacob, good or bad." Laban overtook Jacob. Jacob had pitched his tent on the heights, and Laban with his kinsmen encamped in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, "What do you mean by keeping me in the dark and carrying off my daughters like captives of a sword? Why did you flee in secrecy and mislead me and not tell me? I would have sent you off with festive music and timbrels and lyre. You did not even let me kiss my sons and daughters goodbye. It was a foolish thing for you to do. I have it in my power to do you harm, but the God of your father said to me last night, 'Beware of attempting anything with Jacob, good or bad.' Very well, you had to leave because you were longing for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Jacob answered Laban, saying, "I was afraid because I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. But anyone with whom you find your gods shall not remain alive in the presence of your kinsmen. Point out what I have of yours and take it." Jacob, of course, did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So Laban went through Jacob's tent and Leah's tent and the tents of the two maidservants, but he did not find them. Leaving Leah's tent, he entered Rachel's tent. Rachel, meanwhile, had taken the idols and placed them in the camel cushion and sat on them. And Laban rummaged through the tent without finding them. For she said to her father, "Let not my lord take it amiss that I cannot rise before you, for the period of women is upon me." Thus he searched, but could not find the household idols. Now Jacob became incensed and took up his grievance with Laban. Jacob spoke up and said to Laban, "What is my crime? What is my guilt that you should pursue me? You rummaged through all my things. What have you found of your household objects? Set it here before my kinsmen and yours, and let them decide between us. These 20 years I have spent in your service. Your ewes and your she-goats never miscarried, nor did I feast on any rams from your flock. That which was torn by beasts I never brought to you. I myself made good the loss. You exacted it of me, whether snatched by day or snatched by night. Often scorching heat ravaged me by day and frost by night, and sleep fled from my eyes. Of the 20 years that I spent in your household, I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks. And you changed my wages time and again. Had not the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac been with me, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God took notice of my plight and the toil of my hands, and he gave judgment last night. Then Laban spoke up and said to Jacob, the daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks. All that you see is mine. Yet what can I do now about my daughters or the children they have borne? Come then, let us make a pact, you and I, that there may be a witness between you and me. Thereupon Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. And Jacob said to his kinsmen, gather stones. So they took stones and made a mound, and they partook of a meal there by the mound. Laban named it Yegar Sahabatha, but Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban declared, this mound is a witness between you and me this day. This is why it was named Galeed, and it was called Mizpah, because he said, may the Lord watch between you and me when we are out of sight of each other. If you ill-treat my daughters or take other wives besides my daughters, though no one else be about, remember God himself will be witness between you and me. And Laban said to Jacob, here is this mound, and here the pillar which I have set up between you and me. This mound shall be a witness, and this pillar shall be a witness that I am not to cross to you past this mound, and that you are not to cross to me past this mound, and this pillar with hostile intent. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, their ancestral deities, judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Jacob then offered up a sacrifice on the height and invited his kinsmen to partake of the meal. After the meal, they spent the night on the height. Chapter 32. In the morning, Laban kissed his sons and daughters and bade them goodbye. Then Laban left on his journey homeward. Jacob went his way, and angels of God encountered him. When he saw them, Jacob said, this is God's camp. So he named the place Mahanaim. Thus ends this week's reading of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. Welcome to this week's reading of the books of the prophets. This week's reading is Hosea 12:12 to chapter 14, verse 10. As for Gilead, it is worthless, and to no purpose have they been sacrificing oxen in Gilgal. The altars of these are also like stone heaps upon a plowed field. Then Jacob had to flee into the land of Armon. There Israel served for a wife. For a wife he had no guard sheep. But when the Lord brought Israel up from Egypt, it was through a prophet. Through a prophet they were guarded. Ephraim gave bitter offense, and his Lord cast his crimes upon him, and requited him for his mockery. When Ephraim spoke piety, he was exalted in Israel, but he incurred guilt through Baal, and so he died. And now they go on sinning. They have made them molten images, idols by their skill, from their silver. Holy the work of craftsmen. Yet for these they appoint men to sacrifice. They are wont to kiss calves. Assuredly, they shall be like morning clouds, like dew so early gone, like chaff whirled away from the threshing floor, and like smoke from a lattice, Only I, the Lord, have been your God, ever since the land of Egypt. You have never known a true God but me. You have never had a helper other than me. I looked after you in the desert, in a thirsty land. When they grazed, they were sated. When they were sated, they grew haughty, and so they forgot me. So I became like a lion to them, like a leopard. I lurk on the way. Like a bear robbed of her young, I attack them and rip open the casing of their hearts. I will devour them there like a lion. The beasts of the field shall mangle them. They are undone, O Israel. You are undone, O Israel. You had no help but me. Where now is your king? Let him save you. Where are the chieftains in all your towns, whom you demanded? Give me a king and officers. I gave you kings, and in my ire, and take them away in my wrath. Ephraim's guilt is bound up, his sin is stored away. Pangs of childbirth assail him, and the babe is not wise. For this is no time to survive at the birth stool of babes. From Sheol itself I will save them, redeem them from very death. Where, O death, are your plagues, your pestilence, where, O Sheol? Revenge shall be far from my thoughts, for though he flourish among reeds, a blast of wind of the Lord shall come blowing up from the wilderness. His fountain shall be parched, his spring dried up. That wind shall plunder treasures. Chapter 14. Every lovely object, Samaria must bear her guilt, for she has defied her God. They shall fall by the sword. Her infants shall be dashed to death, and her women with children ripped open. Return, O Israel, to the Lord your God, for you have fallen because of your sin. Take words with you, and return to the Lord. Say to him, forgive my guilt, and accept what is good. Instead of bulls, we will pay the offering of our lips. Assyria shall not save us. No more will we ride on steeds, nor ever again will we call our handiwork our God, since in you alone orphans find pity. I will heal their affliction. Generously I will take them back in love, for my anger has turned away from them. I will be to Israel like dew. He has blossomed like the lily. He shall strike root like a Lebanon tree. His boughs shall spread out far. His beauty shall be like the olive trees, his fragrance like that of Lebanon. They who sit in his shade shall be revived. They shall bring to life new grain. They shall blossom like the vine. His scent shall be like the wine of Lebanon. Ephraim shall say, what more have I to do with idols? When I respond and look to him, I become like a verdant cypress. Your fruit is provided by me. He who is wise will consider these words. He who is prudent will take note of them. For the paths of the Lord are smooth. The righteous shall walk on them, while sinners stumble on them. Thus ends this week's reading of the books of the prophets.
This week's reading of the New Testament is found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 3, verses 13 to the end, followed by chapter 4, verses 1 through to 11. Then cometh Jesus from Galilee to Jordan unto John, to be baptized of him. But John forbade him, saying, I have need to be baptized of thee, and comest thou to me? And Jesus answering said unto him, Suffer to be so now, for thus it becometh us to fulfill all righteousness. Then he suffered him. And Jesus, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water, and lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove, and lighting upon him. And lo, a voice from heaven saying, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Chapter 4. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of God. Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on a pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down. For it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and their hands they shall bear thee up, lest any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. Jesus said unto him, It is written, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and glory of them, and saith unto him, All these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then saith Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. Thus ends the reading of the New Testament for this week.
This week's prayer. Oh, praise the Lord, all ye nations. Praise him, all ye people. For his merciful kindness is great towards us, and the truth of the Lord endureth forever. Praise ye the Lord. Lord, this week I pray for the people in the Islamic faith. Lord, help open their eyes. Help them to see that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is greater than all gods. That you created man in your image, and understand that the word is meant to be mankind, not male. That you created all mankind in your image, and all mankind is sacred. And all mankind has been given the rights to live a happy, godly life. That man was not placed as the only being who can talk to God. That man is not the end-all to be-all. That women are equal to them and have as just much right to peace and happiness as they do. Lord, I thank you that in Iran, in Iraq, and in Syria and other places, that the Muslims are coming to you in huge numbers. Reports are it's thousands of people a day. It's gotten to the point where the governments are worried that Islam is going to die. Lord, let it die. Bring the people to you, because the government wants to use them as brown shirts, as the Nazis used the brown shirts during the Second World War. Lord, deny them that opportunity. Bring a sense of morality to them, godly morality. That you so loved the world that you gave your only begotten Son, that whoever believes in you believes in him shall have eternal life. Help them to see that you are a God of love, God of kindness, and that your laws do not mean for you to hate and to kill. Lord, we just thank you and praise you for all those who are coming to know you. Lord, those who are coming to the foreign lands, into our land, give them peace. Help them seek and find rest and peace in the new land. Remove the hate from the old world. Give them the serenity of knowing that they can live in peace with us and we with them. Lord, we just thank you that you are who you are. That you are King of kings and Lord of lords. That you are the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That you have provided a salvation of peace and rest, and that they may find fulfillment and contentment in you, in Jesus, Yeshua, HaMashiach, that they may find shalom, or salom in their language. Peace be with them. Fill them with peace. Fill the world with peace, Lord. We just thank you and praise you in Jesus, Yeshua's holy name.